So it is 7:03 and I'm calling the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to approve the previous minutes.
I circulated those minutes after the last meeting. To approve them as written. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, moved, seconded. Margaret?
Aye.
Tommy?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And Catherine, aye. It's unanimous. Second item on the agenda is treasurer's report. Okay, anything? to
I
report?
have nothing to report.
Anything that you guys did send to our treasurer?
No, I'll forego the planner's report. I'm sorry, you're talking about that now.
Let's start with the treasurer's report. Okay,
No, we don't have anything, nothing, yeah.
okay. And planners report, or do you want to punt that to the end?
I'll punt that.
Okay, so we're gonna put the planners report on the, to the end, because we have two public hearings. People have a problem with that? People have a problem with that? Okay. So then, I move to open to continue the public hearing, on zoning articles. There's two zoning articles. So the first one is to see if the town will vote to amend the town of Upton zoning bylaw, section 300-3.1, table of principal uses, and section 200.6.6, large scale ground mounted solar photovoltaic installations, which seeks to allow large scale ground mounted solar photovoltaic installations in the agricultural residential zoning district by special permit and establish new dimensional requirements and other controls relative thereto. We sort of stopped talking at the end of the last meeting because one of the reasons was because it was so difficult
It was terrible.
for people to hear. So what I'm going to do is move this over to Mike, who can give a brief synopsis of the issues he discussed at the last meeting.
So I think, and Ken, based on what you had said during that meeting, it sounded like most people could hear me for the most
Yeah,
part.
you were the best
Okay.
heard. The mic was cutting out a lot and the echoing was.
Great, that would,
feedback-ish.
that's good. So that at least, it gives us some comfort that,
You agree with that, Tom?
But every word you said, but everything else was noted.
okay, great. So then, yeah, I'll make this very brief then, to just reiterate that before the board is an amendment to the zoning bylaw that would expand large scale solar use to be included as a use that's allowed by special permit only in the agricultural residential zone. The reason why the board is looking at that now is because there's been recent case law that has basically stated in very explicit terms that towns do not have the ability to decide where large scale solar should go in terms of zoning and zoning districts. Per our town council, while that's true, but that's the opinion of the courts, the town does still retain the ability to require special permits, which are discretionary, and that would be through this board. Also maintain the ability to institute reasonable rules and regulations regarding those new installations. So and I highlight reasonable because that's the language that's used. I believe it's within the state's statute on uses that granted in city as far as what can and can't be done with them, such as Dover Amendment uses, churches, religious use, educational, that sort of thing. In that statute, it says that solar cannot be unreasonably regulated. And what that has been interpreted to mean is that any and all regulation or controls through a bylaw that are proposed need to be tied to the protection of public health, safety, welfare. And we need to provide reasons as to why within those controls, it is accomplishing those things. So Grace and I went through the practice of providing justifications for the controls that have been provided. At the last hearing, I went through the maps that showed the amount of town that would be opened up to this use, which is the AR district. And then I showed realistically, based on the controls that we are proposing through this bylaw, what parcels would realistically become available for this use, because obviously it wouldn't be every single parcel within the AR district. As was noted, in the AR district, there are wide swaths of state forest. Obviously, that would not become available for this use. It's owned and protected by the state. There's also a lot of acreage that's dedicated to parcels that are owned by the Conservation Commission that are protected open space. And then in the southern portion of town, oh, Margaret, I thought you were holding a swan for a second. So you like a cat through the, okay.
Just my cat.
Where was I? That was very distracting to me.
South Street.
Oh, yes, thank you. On the south end of town, obviously there's wide swaths of area that are dedicated and controlled by the United States Army Corps of Engineers because of flood zone and things like that. I did hear back from the Army Corps saying that while solar panels were not excluded from those areas, they do require, to Margaret's point earlier at the last meeting, they do require to be approved through the Army Corps. They don't allow habitable structures within the flood zones, but they would allow something like this. Anything that would create a discharge of water into the flood area, and anything that would require soil removal within that flood area, they would want to review and approve. And also a key component of this is three-phase power again, and the maps that I showed three-phase power and where it goes in town, and just commenting on the likelihood of enacting, or I should say enabling parcels to capitalize on this new zoning. It would only be areas that have access to three-phase parcel, and that's a smaller portion of town than is what is available within the AR district. I guess I'll just run quickly through the justifications, and then I'll throw it back to the chair.
Can you also touch on the comments from Concom and other?
Oh, Grace, can you speak to the comments from Concom? I think Marcel is on.
She's hiding behind me.
But you can finish up with your call, and then we can talk.
Okay.
What you just said about on that. I wanted to make sure. They want to.
So in that document that was circulated to the board, we just labeled it as justifications to zoning bylaw for large scale ground mounted. Grace had gone through the practice of taking a sampling of parcels that could still take advantage of this new bylaw. The issue being, we're looking at instituting a 3-acre minimum in order to become available for the use. Not only that, we're looking at requiring that any new use be on previously disturbed land. And we're hoping to get a 5-year time period out of that. Whereas if it can't be disturbed within 5 years of an application for this use. And that the intention of that is to preserve forest, right? So we went through the practice of identifying where there are large swaths of land that are north of 3 acres and within the AR district, and how many acres within those areas are already cleared. And so I don't have to go through property by property, but it's a substantial amount of acreage that would still be able to utilize this bylaw. And the reason why that's provided is to show that those requirements are not unreasonable and certainly wouldn't be prohibitive.
Is that this map right here?
No, I think
No.
that's the,
I'm going through it's a narrative document that I'm going through right now.
Right, I get it.
I think the map shows where the 3G is, 5G is, I mean, not 5G, three phase
Three
five.
phase, yeah.
I can go through those if there's questions on those later. So, and additionally, justification to land clearing. What I did, and I won't read through this entire thing, but I cited, there was a very recent Mass Audubon document and publication that was put out in partnership with the Harvard Forest. And what that document did is go through and identify that, large scale ground mounted has contributed significantly to forest loss and fragmentation. And they identified that there are very viable sites within the state on areas that are already either cleared or developed. And so I provided that as a call out to just, again, provide the documentation. Should this be recommended by this board and should this be approved at town meeting? That's documentation that's going to be helpful to go to the Attorney General's office when they review this bylaw, because they're going to be looking at this, wondering if the planning board did their due diligence in evaluating the regulations that are proposed and balancing public health, safety, and welfare, and how are you tying those regulations to those things. So we went through the practice of just, providing the backup to these arguments by citing that report that just came out. And then Grace assisted with identifying Department of Agriculture and describing, how critical mature and old forest growth is as justification for the 5-year limit on clearing. And that's, I guess, I'll leave it at that. A lot of information, but I did a lot of talking last one too. So.
So yeah, I did want, to know to hear again what, Concom's comments are and other comments, other departments are, just in case folks weren't able to hear them. So,
We have it in writing, is it?
Yes.
okay, has everyone been able to review them, or do you want?
Just one question on that, is the prime agricultural land, though that's like Kelly's farm has prime agricultural land, but when they requested a solar farm and their intention was to raise them up, be able to use the land as well as have the solar. So if that's the case, we have to use prime agricultural land for solar.
But the change though is, and I had a comment on it, I said a couple of comments, but one, the change in number 4 is the portion of the lot that's going to be used for the cell tower must have been previously cleared from trees. Not, it doesn't mean it was, it wasn't used for agricultural for 5 years. So this would still allow a farm to be turned, except for a tree farm, to be turned into a solar farm.
Yeah, mine was more of the written comments of the letter. Okay, there was a letter from Concom that requested that.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You got it?
Mhm.
Oh, that's what I'm addressing, that's what I'm.
All right.
Yeah, there was a concern from Concom about using, open, fields, in agricultural land, even stuff that may not be in active use.
I agree. I wouldn't replace it with solar. I wouldn't replace prime agriculture, but I would, if you could put them together like you,
Right.
previously,
Right.
wouldn't that be the best goal for it?
But if you're just dealing with like farm, like my parents' land, they're not actively growing on. So that's, there's like Stefan's property, places like that, which is not conservation land. So those are places that aren't actively being farmed, but could be used for this, and, and it would impact,
There was one sticking point that you had for acreage.
Yeah, I had a couple of minor ones and then I think a more theoretical or, you know, a policy one. So we talk about minimum 3 acres. We don't talk about acres much in our zoning bylaw, right? We talk more about 40,000 square feet being a buildable
sure.
lot.
Or, yeah.
So I don't know if we should, you know, do you want it for 120,000
Mhm.
square feet? That's 3 acres.
Yeah,
400,000 square feet, that's 10 acres.
right.
I don't care much one way or the other, but I think it does mean something to developers and how they cut things up. So you might be better off with 120 and 400. I was fine with 120, 3 acres roughly. I think, Tom, you're getting to, you know, is 10 acres the right number?
Well, it could be if you changed it from a 10-acre lot size to a 10-acre coverage.
Well, that was, yeah, that was my question.
Yeah.
Is 10 acre coverage with the setback?
You can have 20 acres, 30 acres, but you can only have 10 acres of coverage for this.
And does that include setbacks too? It's a 100
Yeah.
feet within.
So you can coverage. So yeah, you can have whatever 10 acres of solar panels will give you, and that'll allow lot sizes more than 10 acres, but you're still only going to get the impact of a 10-acre solar.
Just Margaret is also trying to get a word in here.
I was actually trying to remember, there was a maximum size that was in the original proposal, and we talked about having to increase that if we wanted to be consistent with other, I can't remember with the state, so.
Yeah, through here, Margaret, the original maximum, I believe, and the way that is still written, because that's the way it was presented to the board, is that it's a maximum of 10 acres, as we were just discussing. The issue that I brought up at the last hearing is that that maximum, and again, it's 10, the way that it's written is it's 10 acres maximum lot size. It's not 10 acres maximum coverage. So that should be addressed. In addition to, I believe that the gentleman I was speaking to who would like to do this use down on South Street, he had proposed, I think it was 16 acres worth of coverage of the panels. So just, you know, take into account, you know, the intended use and whether or not, you know, do we want to provide for something like that on a piece of land that is, and again, I'm trying to balance whether or not I should talk about a project specifically or not specifically in this project.
Let's just say it's a farm. Let's just call it a farm for now.
Some farm in town.
Not necessarily the same, but like if it was a farm, because that addresses a couple of issues we have, right? So you got a 40-acre farm and it's gonna be 20 acres solar farm. Inclusive of, you know, coverage inclusive of setbacks maybe.
Or a
right?
brownfield. I don't think we have any
Could be a
brownfields in town, but like, for example,
But brownfield's gonna be the best, you know, the best thing for the town. Farm's gonna be the worst thing for the town.
yeah.
It is the old, has the old dump ever been capped, or is that still a brownfield? Because that project never went through.
It is being recorded.
The dump, I think the cap process was completed. And that's why, and then they were able to do the land swap after the cap was done. Even though that they didn't swap, I don't think they swapped capped land, but they were able to swap good acres for bad acres.
We have several bylaws that call for, you can't develop the entire 100%, you have to set aside this or that. And there's I forget exactly what they'd be, but
Like the housing coverage.
can only cover a certain percentage of this and that. Then must, like 10% land has to be set aside for open space on subdivisions. We have certain things like that where it's a percentage as opposed to specific.
I think you could build it this way with 100-foot setbacks on all 4 sides. So you got a square with, I mean, in the simplest form, right? You'd have a square within a square, and what's 100, you know, to get to 10 acres, you're gonna have what, you know, who knows what.
But why not?
3 by 3.
But why not do a percentage has to be, because, you know, as I've said in previous meetings, I wouldn't want a solar farm 10 feet away from my house.
No, but I think that's what
I
the
mean,
setback
you
does
know,
for you.
But yeah, I mean, it's a setback of 10 feet.
No, but this would be a 100-foot setback.
I mean, 100-foot
Yeah.
setback, that's still with the glare and everything. I think that if we're talking about a certain amount, it doesn't preclude that it'll still be like glare outside my window, but it does, you know, allow for additional, you know, sort of like our subdivision.
But if you've got a 20, 30, 40 acre, 50 acre lot, and this is what you want to do with it, you'd want to somehow limit the impact of cutting everything down and having a 50 acre thing. So you'd want some sort of a maximum limit of how much you can cover with the solar, no matter what it is. We just don't, like you're saying, we don't want the thing overrun.
Yeah.
But if you've got a 50 acre lot or a 20 acre lot, you should be able to have a 10 acre or a 15 or 20 acre solar farm.
I think it's, I mean, again, I am opposed to this, but if it does go through, I think that there should be a max on it. How many farms, active farms we have in Upton? Just Kelly?
I don't have a number on that.
Yeah, I think we just have Kelly.
Flowers.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
or the 3, 4,
Anybody else?
3,
There's a
4
couple of other farms in town.
active ones?
Yeah,
Yeah.
active farms, so.
Okay,
It's like there's other things too, this composting farm up on
Christian.
Christian Hill. not
The
just-
CSA.
yeah, and you got more
area.
Gwynell's farm.
Right.
That other
Or,
kind of-
okay, yeah, other kind of farms. I was thinking, okay,
Tree farms.
okay.
So is that our issue right now? You think is
Well-
is pinning down the lot sizes and the
Well-
cut sizes?
I think those are two of my comments of the acres versus square feet. Is, I'm fine with the max, I guess, is a question, and does it, you know, I think it should be inclusive of the setbacks. That's just conceptually, I think that's easier for people to get to. And the setbacks I was fine with, I understand, you know,
Yeah.
100 feet may or may not be enough. The only other thing is, and I think there's two other things we gotta think about. In 4 again on this, where it says that it must have been previously cleared. I think you get rid of the word previously because you have prior, you know, at least 5 years prior. But I would I would suggest we put substantially cleared instead of previously cleared. Because if you got a lightly wooded lot,
Yeah.
that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, with the scrub, you know,
Right.
right, substantially, you know, we're talking about forest here. And then the other big one is, do you try to protect, do we try to address? the-
And procedurally, these are waivable under the special permit process, correct?
Is that typically how it's done through this board?
Well, these would be a zoning issue that we wouldn't ask them to go through a zoning board of appeals variance if this is a special permit from this board.
I would suggest that that's what the board would like.
I don't really know.
Oh, good. So, yeah, if you'd like to make these provisions waivable, I think we'd have to specifically call that out within this bylaw, as pertaining only to this section.
Why would we want to make them waivable?
Well, so Mike probably knows this better than I do, because we had some experience with this. We had one deal where, you know, it was brought to our attention that we probably can't waive under a special permit. The Mass General Law talks about waivers under zoning, but not special permits, right?
Right. So the way I would look at it is that this section of the bylaw in and of itself is providing its own dimensional requirements, right? Dimensional requirements can be altered through application of variance through the zoning board. So what I would say, without clear guidance from a bylaw such as this to state explicitly that this special permit criteria is waivable through application of a special permit through the planning board. If you don't have that language, it would probably require a variance. So if you want to provide for that option, we can just make a recommendation that this bylaw includes that language.
So if we said no, the zoning board would say yes, because that's a zoning
Yeah.
issue.
If he's asking, yeah,
And we're back to it, the same thing we had on North Street.
yeah,
I don't like that.
yeah.
Yeah, well, and again, we're expanding this from 4% of the town to 74% of the town.
Mhm.
Why do we expand it and give ourselves even more leeway, within this expansion? We can do that in 2 years with another
Yeah.
bylaw change.
Yeah, I mean, people know that I oppose this. And I do strongly feel that, by doing this, maybe it's inevitable we'll be sued, but we're laying out a welcome mat, and then folks will want to do it. If we don't do it, wait for the state to say you have to do it, we can throw up our hands and do it then. So we at least get a couple of years out of it. If we have to do it, if this does, move forward to the next step, I think the conversation we've had all along is the planning board needs to have control of it. We need to be the ones that set, setbacks, and we need to be the ones that, talk about, the previously cleared. I did have a question about, you're the lawyer in the room saying substantially cleared, but I've been looking at legislation all day and I've gotten hung up on the definitions. And so what is substantially? And I see that as appealable. Someone.
Bullets for sure.
So I'm just wondering if you could really define what substantially is, before a town meeting. I think that it's good to have a cap on the developed, space. So a person can get a 100-acre farm, they can get a 40-acre farm, they can get a 20-acre farm. And they, but they can only dedicate, no more than 20 acres to solar panels, something like that. Again, I'm gonna vote against it anyway, but the better, the more, permits, the more restrictions that we can put on it. I would love to be able to protect, fields, because that's where the pollinators are, that's where the wildflowers are. And this stuff, destroys, not only beautiful tracts of land, but it also kills, it makes it, I have problems with it.
I see this as a stopgap for the generation that's gonna come, and they're gonna figure out that we don't need to do this to generate electricity, but,
Yeah, then why are we doing it?
because
I'm
the best,
agreeing with you, Tom.
because the best we got now is that it does help. We don't know the future, and if this helps, my problem is, you only waive things because it's in the best interest of the town to do so. We don't waive it because it's good for the developer, the solar farm, we waive it because it's the interest of the town.
Right.
And I wouldn't want to tie our hands where somebody came in and said, you give me, allow me to go an extra acre of coverage, and I'll give you
Yeah.
20 acres for your conservation along a brook, so.
But we can set the cap. We don't want a 40-acre.
But my question is, how is that, what's the process on that? Is that the planning board saying, yes, you don't have to go through strict compliance with what's written? Or can the applicant, if we say no, go to another board, zoning board of appeals, and get approval of strict compliance, get a waiver of strict compliance through another?
Again, we had that, we didn't get an answer on the North Street one, right? Where the CBA, whether rightly or wrongly, gave a use variance to allow a solar farm in a residentially zoned area, residential or agriculture, whatever, they needed the variance. And we split as a board as to whether we were gonna give them a special permit. Two of us said, yes, because you've already got the waiver, so zoning's not an issue. Two of us said, you gotta satisfy everything.
And it was a great site plan, so I interrupted, it was a great, we approved the site plan because the site plan was great.
Oh, yeah, they did a good job.
But.
But two said it's not appropriate to have a solar farm in a neighborhood. So I
And
don't know what the answer is.
The thing is,
I
we
think
had
that this,
I mean,
this
that one-
law gives us some power there, though, because we could say, you would have to cut down all these trees to build that North Street solar farm. And so our bylaw prohibits us from approving a solar farm that requires cutting. So I think that it provides, the bylaw as it's currently written provides some power that we didn't have before.
Oh,
And
yeah.
because there's nothing to stop the ZBA from approving a use variance again when we're not looking. And then we're gonna be right back.
Let's say they give it I think Tom's question was, what if, they come to us and they want to do a 21 acre, we said, or as it's written right now, it's 10. They want to do 11. and they come to us, and who do you go to first? If they go to the ZBA first and they say, well, we want 11 and we're gonna give you these magic beans over here. And the ZBA says, that's a good deal. And nobody, objects. Then they come to us for the special permit and they say, we have our dimensional variance, please give us the special permit. Is that okay? I
You can
think
always deny it.
with, I think we can. We'll find out the answer to whether that withstands judicial scrutiny.
Well,
Sure.
We got sued last time and they resolved it.
Yeah.
They went away.
Yeah, I have a question. You just said that they went, when somebody wanted to build a solar farm in an AR district, they went to the ZBA and the ZBA gave them a waiver. Why can't that, but we were told at the beginning of this process that that's basically illegal.
Yeah.
And so why can't we do this just on places, that we deem suitable?
That's
because
I mean-
we can control what use variances the ZBA is gonna give. I mean, that's the thing. If right now, if the ZBA gave that use variance for a giant forest and we have no regulations in place, we have nothing in place to protect that forest, we can't. That's what happened on North Street. ZBA gave the approval for the use variance. We couldn't, we had to approve cutting down the forest to build a solar farm, which
So
I,
why couldn't the ZBA approve a use variance for South Street?
the reason is that the use of a use variance is suspect.
Right.
We don't have a provision in our zoning bylaw that states that as an option.
I know, but it worked here. They got a use variance from the ZBA, they moved forward, and the only reason that wasn't built, from my understanding, is because they didn't file things in time and they didn't notify the neighbors. I mean,
No, they let
yeah,
it was the litigation against us for the split, because our split decision was essentially a denial
Mhm.
of the special permit.
Mhm.
And they moved on from the project after they sued us.
Mhm.
Then they voluntarily dismissed
but it
it.
could be the same thing. It's that we could, they go to the ZBA for use variance and we could even accept or deny it.
but
Why
but the challenge is that if we have a bylaw that says we will give you the permit as long as you're not cutting trees to do it, that's one thing, but otherwise, we didn't have the you can't cut trees to do it as a reason to deny on North Street.
But they
It was-
could go before the ZBA and get setback changes, they could go size changes. Instead of a 1 acre change, they could ask for a 20 acre change.
But they still need to set the special permit from us.
And site plan.
It's like,
And so
site plan's
even-
easy though.
So even if we tell them what, they have the bylaw, they go to the ZBA, we can say, no,
Mhm.
you can't have the setback, you can't have the.
Yeah. Because the special permit, you're judging it based on a different set of criteria, being, the last time it was denied based on the fact that the board said this doesn't fit in this context. Every special permit, you as a board are making that determination. Does this use fit in this context, regardless of waivers that the zoning board might have granted for dimensional requirements? This board's duty is to look at the application as a whole and judge whether or not it's a suitable location, a suitable fit for a piece of property. And just because it got a 50-foot variance from the 100-foot setback, just as an example, doesn't mean it's any better of a fit for a particular piece of property than without it.
So ZBA, the variance really means nothing then.
In this context, I would argue that yes,
Okay.
correct.
Okay. I have a question. Is there anybody on the call that wants to, we'll get back to the planning board members, but if there's anybody either on the call or in the room that wants to comment on this, I just want to let. Nobody has anything to say about solar.
Marcella, did you have anything?
I'm just kind of listening in. I don't even I can't even access my paperwork from Concom to refer to what we discussed, but I really just want to hear what you are discussing around this.
Is the issue for us maximum lot size? Is minimum a problem?
I don't care about minimum, other than the other question is, do we use acres or square feet?
I think we should change it to square feet. 4 acres, whatever's consistent with what we do.
Square feet, because our single acre, our 1 acre lots are actually 40,000 square feet.
For consistency, I agree. And the maximum is our, we need to look at and agree to. Because I probably wouldn't agree to 10, I would agree to 20.
Yeah.
With a 100-foot buffer.
And is that's
That's inclusive of the buffer.
that's the lot, not the coverage? Maximum lot size?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote against this, so don't listen to me. But
They can just cut the lot, can't they? Well, I guess they
Yeah.
could, I mean.
And again, that was my question on what is the process, because if we say 20 and that's it, somebody comes in with 21 or 25, they'd have to have the ability to make it worth our while. We'd have to be able to say, no, 20 is a max.
Right, yes.
And they can say, but it's in the best interest of the town because we're gonna give you 20 acres of this and develop 25 of this, so.
Then with spot zoning, and using the term spot zoning is illegal, and actually doing it is legal. Because you can, as long as it's over 2 acres, you can get away with it.
So, is that, so the sticking point seems to be, is it gonna be maximum lot size of what? Or is it gonna be maximum lot size, is it gonna be maximum coverage of?
I think we were talking about maximum, because of the South Street, maximum lot size of 20. And that's, that was, before it was 10, now we're talking maximum lot size of 20.
Which I would say would be 800,000 square feet, inclusive of setback.
You're gonna go metric on me next, aren't you?
So let's say 20, and what else were you gonna, on number 3 and 4?
On 4, I would replace the word previously in line 2 with substantially. And we'll be in litigation forever with the word substantially. I agree with,
Or is there any better way to phrase that?
it's a special permit, so I think we're gonna decide what substantially is. If it's a bunch of crappy, 4-inch trees, we'll be okay. And
Yeah, and they grow. If something was cleared 6 years ago, in a year, you're gonna have little.
And I think I would argue on the planning board, and I want to save a 100-year-old oak in the middle of a 20-acre field. I'd say it's gotta be, you gotta.
Yeah. So I
I
was
was substantial.
I would suggest the board, we can capture that. So assuming there's a positive recommendation, we can capture these detailed recommendations in a report to town meeting and include language that describes exactly that of its intent on protecting old forest growth, not saplings, of a particular caliber.
Yeah, as long as,
Well, pine.
old forest growth,
Well, we
right?
can't
There's
yeah,
not
we
much
can't-
old forest left in the county.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can't use old growth because that has a meaning, a very specific.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's almost none
Unless
left. in
we're on this, unless we're on the side of
Unless-
Mount Wachusett, it doesn't exist.
Well, then, I guess my question
I
would
think
be,
forests, I think,
we have experts that we rely on for all of these decisions, and so the number 4, we'd probably be relying on those people that would tell us what's a substantial clearing. Would that be conservation?
I don't know, honestly.
just a question, if we talk about deforested, that means, it can't have been deforested in the last 5 years. Because if it's been deforested, you're gonna have growth pretty immediately,
Right.
but we won't count that.
But these are trees, who hugs them?
Right.
Just kidding.
No, but I mean, if it has to be, if you can't deforest the land, that's a different word. But it doesn't say that it doesn't include.
Well, this is to your point of what's the word substantially mean?
Yeah,
And we're a board, we get a submission, and we're gonna ask that question, are you substantially clearing it? We're gonna have that, we're gonna trust them, we're gonna verify. So what does substantial mean? Who's the experts on that? It would be people that would know the forest, what can be cut and replaced? Could that be the state forest? Would we go to the state for answers? Would we go to the town for answers?
And the abutters are gonna come in and say, and they're showing you pictures from this week,
Yeah.
it was forested last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the other big issue is there a way, do we want to, is there a way to address the Concom's issue of a concern about giving up our better agricultural land? You know, in one way, you don't want Kelly's Farm to disappear as a farm. The other side is, they were talking about doing high panels and farming underneath them. You want to dissuade that.
Well, before we approved a solar farm, we'd have the engineering approved. We'd have the access and everything from the DPW already approved. We'd have conservation tell us if the clearing is okay, if
It's
the
clear.
soil is okay, and
Everything's clear.
or we get your reviewing engineer.
No, but everything's, I mean, the Kelly's, farm fields would be perfect for solar, except that they're better for farms. So nothing in here would dissuade somebody from turning a farm, a plowed farm field,
Right.
plowed for more than 5 years in crops until last season,
Yeah.
into a solar farm. I'd rather keep it as a solar farm.
Yeah, the
But if the farm isn't making enough money to keep it a farm, would I rather have a solar farm or
Or
something?
something. Yeah,
Can't the town buy it?
Community.
Yeah.
Are we ready? Do you think you have the language?
Can I just ask a
If we
question?
change that to 20?
Yeah, I think so.
Can I ask a question to governance? Oh, wait till sorry, stuff's dying. Whose bylaw is this? And what I'm getting at is, what does a vote by this board do? We have to give an opinion on every zoning bylaw change. But if it's somebody else's bylaw and we say negative action, the town can still adopt it down there. There you go. We know who's inviting you for a reason.
May I have one too?
Are we the gatekeeper right now? Yes. Sponsoring? So a 3-2 vote,
Welcome back.
depending on which way it goes, means whether this goes forward on that town meeting.
Can I ask a question? That same line you are. I asked Mike earlier, he wasn't sure. Is it possible for something to be moved on to town meeting without a recommendation? Like just, you had mentioned it at one of the last meetings, that you think this is something that folks, should be able to discuss. This is beyond us, really. And so my question is it possible to forward to town meeting without a recommendation?
No, as far as I know, whenever there's a zoning change, there has to be a recommendation from the planning board after the planning board holds a public hearing. We can hold a public hearing and put no comment, but we have to hold a public hearing and either take a no vote or does not recommend it. We can do something we want, but we have to hold a public hearing
Right.
first, because it's a zoning change.
Right, but does our vote have to be yes or no, or can it be no comment?
It can be yes or no as a recommendation, up or down. But we have to get a recommendation because we held a public hearing and we have to get the results of that. And voted on them.
Yeah, and we and other boards have said favorable action, right? Unfavorable action, or favorable action 3-2. And kind of signal to the majority vote, and people will, at town meeting will say, Madam Chair, can you tell us what was the reasoning behind the yes votes or the no votes?
But we have to hold a public hearing. It's a zoning change.
And
And we have to take a vote. It doesn't, what we vote on is up.
I don't know where I am on this, and I might like to be last vote, because
I mean.
I know where you're gonna be, but I think I know where Margaret's gonna be, but. So I don't play poker against him.
But if you change the 20, if you change it to 20 as the minimum and change previously to substantial, and it will have the definition of substantial from our experts. We can defend what's substantial and what isn't.
We can also give more guidance in regs.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But with those two changes,
There more than two, we talked about the size, we talked about the Clear
Dimension
cut.
size.
Oh, those.
Yeah. Passing the town meeting is always tough, but I'd be in favor of presenting it to them.
We have 2/3.
2/3 on a zoning change.
Did we have something, we talked about it before, but we haven't mentioned it again about appearance and effect on abutting properties? Is there something in there that we could say no basically to a
With
property?
100 software limited.
So I believe in the existing bylaw, which this change is not proposing to touch.
Yeah.
There is a landscape buffer that is required. Yeah, screening requirement. So I was trying to track down the language now.
I voted against the other one when I was on the negative votes because it devalued the property. It lessened property value in the area.
What was that, the North Street one?
Yeah, and the problem with causing the homeowner property to go down is you get less taxes. Those are assessed now lower and you get less money, so it's gonna cause less money for the town. It's just
It's a
not the
domino
real.
effect.
It just it
What's
was
that, well, I mean, the town will get tax revenue from the solar company.
at what cost.
I know, that's why I'm voting no. No, it is a tough decision, and I really respect where Margaret's coming from on this.
Well, so then we can vote it down if it's a really hard one, we can do it because it's detrimental to the public, to the neighborhood.
We were talking about the one on South Street being in a lower area that the neighbors can't even see.
It's like
and
a
that
bowl,
seemed like
yeah.
a spot because
Yeah.
it doesn't affect the people abutting.
Well, even that, one of the neighbors said, hey, there is a high spot there that will,
Yeah.
if it's on that one high spot.
Yeah.
That would be visible, more, the most visible.
And the Kelly's Farm one, I mean, that's the thing, if you could say that,
I think the special permit on that, you could say, look, I need you to shift it a little bit. I need you to not to do that 500 square feet, go out that, you own the whole thing. You can push it out that way. Don't
And
take
there's a
that.
big buffer down there. The buffer zone is not a,
We'll put a playground right there.
If you've got a polluted area, then you can
Just don't put the panels on, it's a jungle.
make money off it by this, that's.
All right.
okay, so are folks ready to call the question?
I would move to close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Okay, move to close the public hearing. I'm gonna start the precedent here, Paul. Margaret,
aye?
Tommy, Ken?
Aye.
Kathy? Aye.
You have to answer it, so.
Two meetings,
Paul,
2 meetings in a row, you forget.
Paul, okay. Okay, any discussion?
Make a motion.
I'd like to make the motion that we vote that the town approve the solar as written with these changes, that the 10-acre minimum maximum lot size be changed to 20, that the measurements be put in square feet, and that the word previously cleared be changed to substantially cleared.
Any discussion?
Could we make it previously substantially clear?
It's, the word prior is later in the sentence.
Okay, all right.
That's why, so Margaret, it says, the way it'll be written is, must have been substantially cleared from trees for a period of at least 5 years prior to the submission.
Perfect.
That's the motion.
Any discussion? Was there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. So motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, vote. Margaret,
Aye.
Tommy,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Catherine, no.
No. Motion approved, 3-2. 3-2.
So that would include sponsoring the article
Mhm.
and making the recommendation.
I'll write up a report based on pretty much everything.
And do we have to talk to the moderator beforehand because it's different than what appears in the warrant?
You are, this recommendation will be the recommendation to town meeting to adopt the changes that you noted.
Okay,
So the article will remain as it appears, so that with town council.
okay, so, close the public hearing. And we open a public meeting, request for site modification, Kiwanis Beach parking lot. To see if the board will vote to amend the site plan approval condition 6, which states use of the parking lot shall not exceed the statement of use in the applicant's December 7, 2015 letter to the board.
We have Maria Cherubino on from Recreation Department.
It's gonna take a moment.
But I'll speak a little bit to it first, Maria. Yeah. So it was brought to my attention, but I guess I'll back up a little bit. One of the Friends of Upton Youth Soccer, I believe it is the organization. They would like to put lighting at the existing soccer field at Kiwanis Beach. And that their stated intent for that is just to extend the fall season for soccer based on what they already what their existing schedule is, which in the early fall, if it starts at 5 o'clock, I forget exactly what their times are, but if early fall, they have a game that starts at 5 o'clock, they have the light, but by the time it's November, they're completely out of light. So they wanted to provide for lighting at Kiwanis Beach. It was then pointed out to me that in 2015, the planning board voted to approve a site plan for the upper parking lot at Kiwanis Beach. And as a result of that approval, there were several conditions. One of those conditions was that the use of the field, or the use generally of that property was to be limited to what the Recreation Department had submitted to the board during those hearings. And what that submission was a detailed accounting of what their current event schedule was in that year. It was, looking back at it, it looks, it didn't seem to me that the then rec director realized that they were accidentally confining themselves to what their 2015 event schedule was without really the ability to change as years go on and events change. So I just did that as a little bit of background. Go ahead.
Just a question. So is the request for the modification with respect to the upper lot, the new lot, the lower lot, or both?
The request for the site plan approval is based on that 2015 site plan.
No, but what we're discussing right now.
Yeah,
They look into,
the condition appeared to be, even though the site plan was specific to, I think it was the upper lot, the condition was pretty much use of the entire property, because I think the link made was that the use of the property is tied to the use of that parking lot, if I were to guess, but I wasn't there, obviously.
do we have that?
What, can I stop for a minute, through the chair, if I may? It says number 6 is use of the parking lot shall not exceed the statement of use in the applicant's December 7th letter. So,
This is the upper lot.
Yeah.
well, this is the number 6 we're talking about, right?
Yes.
That approval is solely as to the upper lot.
So I guess my question is, what are they adding? Well, here would be my questions, if I may ask some questions. Are they adding any more spaces, any more parking spaces?
No.
Any more access of the road? Are they, so, no handicapped impacts, no grading, no,
No, nothing to the site is changing itself.
so what use are they talking about?
That condition that you just read is linked to a document that was submitted to this board. That decision with those conditions, number 6 refers to a letter that was submitted to this board, which provided a detailed accounting of use of that lot generally.
Right.
We have,
And so yes, you should have that.
But but again, I'm trying to just make a distinction, because
Mhm.
we were only dealing with the upper, the new lot
At that time, yes.
at that time. And I was a voting member on that. You were a voting member, I think Margaret was too. My memory, my intent was with that lot, we had a lot of neighborhood concerns about that upper lot. And that was one of the conditions that the applicant said, yeah, we're not gonna, we'll live with this, but we're only talking about the upper lot. So are they looking to illuminate the upper lot? Illuminate the lower lot?
Oh, I'm sorry, are you saying illuminate or eliminate?
Illuminate.
Illuminate,
Light
they're
it up.
looking to illuminate the soccer field. Is that?
Which soccer field though?
I
I guess it's the upper one.
Is that upper?
Right, there's only one.
Maria?
Yeah,
Yeah, can I just,
Yeah, just the upper field.
okay.
What I want to do is just have, Maria explain exactly what she's talking
Yeah,
about.
because I was getting used to what that'd be great.
Maria, could you explain exactly what the issue is?
Sure, yeah. So currently, youth soccer puts in reservations that go to 7 or 8 p.m. And when they get into late spring, they run out of daylight. And so late fall. So in early fall and in the spring, they're able to go to the end of their reserve time. And then in fall, they're not able to. They're looking to add lights to the upper soccer field in order to be able to stay on the field for the length of time of their current reservations. In working through the process of trying to add those lights, it was discovered that the use of that upper parking lot was not being used in the way that original 2015 layout of the schedule of activities had originally stated. So we're trying to just expand that or update that usage to say when DPW and recreation in combination approve a schedule of events, the upper parking lot matches those scheduled events. So if we approve soccer to be played till 7 p.m., the upper parking lot would be open till 7 p.m. Whether it's a Tuesday night or a Saturday night or anything. Everything would obviously still go with any light ordinances or sound ordinances, things like that. The whole area closes at 8 with the exception of concerts where they give us an extension to 8:30. But really what we're trying to do is not back ourselves into corner with our current events, which is what we did in 2015, and just say that the parking lot would be open and closed in combination with the facility and field schedule.
So just a quick question.
Oh, yeah.
So are we talking the parking lot or are we talking about lights? I thought this had to do with lighting in a soccer field. But when you were talking, unless I mistook it, you were talking about keeping the parking lot open.
That's because we only dealt with the parking lot at the time, and we at the time said this is the schedule for which the parking lot shall be used. So
Okay.
if they add lights, they will want to use the parking lot longer. That is my understanding of what's going on.
Yes.
Because I remember
So-
Yes.
we were only talking about the parking lot. We said nothing
So-
about.
Okay, so the lights will be added to the lights will be added to the field or allowed to stay on longer at the field?
Added, there are no
Added
lights
to
on the
the
field.
There are no lights on the field, okay. So what this ask is to do is, and I'm being very slow, I apologize, is you're asking us to agree, to modify the previous site plan approval to allow lights to be put on the field and the lot to stay on. I mean, what are you asking for? Because
Just
it
the
seems
lot.
Asking
It
also
only has to do
for
with-
a relief from the restrictions placed in the previous. So if there's other restrictions put on that, are you asking for relief to those as well, or just to so the only ones are letting the parking lot stay open for another 30 minutes?
Well, you're illuminating the soccer field, correct? You're gonna add lights to the soccer field? That could potentially be major change to the neighborhood if you had put in lights. In the original, we would ask you, where are the lights? What is the lights are you using? where are they gonna be placed and what is their effect on the neighborhood?
Right.
So if you're gonna be putting in lights, we'd have to go through the same process of protecting the neighborhood and making sure, that we're putting in because the town's gonna be paying the bill for the lights, so we wanna make sure we get the right, energy efficient stuff. And there's a whole bunch of things that the planning board has to do to make sure that the lights being installed is not an adverse impact. So I'm not against it, but I think we do have to have a new public hearing and a site plan for this.
And just a question again for Maria. The lights, who will be installing, who will be paying for the lights? Would that be,
That's being worked out between the selectmen and the men up in Sauger.
that's what I thought, okay. So, okay,
So
so are there any other questions?
Thanks,
that you have?
No, I mean,
Okay.
that's all good. I mean, because we were dealing with a few hot button issues on the parking lot itself. And some worked out the right way, some didn't. And I think if we had it to do over again, we would have done some different things. But and I think, you know, compromises were made too. And I think that was, it might not have been the most artful way to do it, but I think it was, you know, the applicant at the time said, look, we're not asking for lights. And that's, I think that's how we got to that condition 6 or whatever it is, that pretty much said, okay, it's not gonna change, you know, the field use, in my mind, I'm just one person. In my mind, it was the field use isn't gonna change. We're not asking for lights right now, we're not asking for any changes, so that's what it's gonna be. I don't think we want to change it, you know, to make it 6:30 as opposed to 6:45. That's not what was in my mind. It really was the lighting issue and whether this was gonna be instead of a 12-hour field, now it's an 18-hour field. A big change like that. So that was the intent behind it. I think if we're changing something as broad as that you can now have soccer until, till 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it could be lit up at.
Well, there was mention also of concerts.
All sorts of things, you know, I don't know if you can have concerts up there, you'd have them down at the bandstand, but
Yeah.
it's a big enough deal that I'm not gonna prejudge it one way or the other, but it's an issue that the neighborhood's gonna want to be heard on. Or it's gonna need, input from all the stakeholders.
Is there any other comment, or can I open it up to public comment? Because Lynn's been sitting here very patiently.
I'm Lynn Haggerty, Side Mill Lane, a butter to the chair. I brought this forward to the planning board with your original recommendations or your approval of the site plan. During this whole process, one of the biggest things with this is that it was to be an overflow parking lot. It had no, under your site plan review, your traffic study was waived because this was supposed to be an overflow parking lot. Its impact to the neighborhood, set line of sight, how 2 cars can't pass. So you're generating a couple of 100 cars up there during the weekend in a very, very narrow road where 2 cars can barely pass. So the reason for number 6 was not to exceed, because there were if you recall, there were a lot of discussion, whoever was there, about you're gonna have 300 cars on a weekend going up there. And
Can I stop you 1 minute, Mr. Chair?
yes,
That road is, what's the name of it?
Cider Mill Lane.
It's the lowest rated road in town as far as safety.
Yes, I was gonna remark also that we, as residents, we took it upon ourselves to contact MassDOT and have an engineer come out and look at the road, because at the time, there was, like I
This is a
said, there
road
was-
going into the Kiwanis, correct? Not.
no.
Cider Mill Lane.
Cider Mill Lane is above Kiwanis Beach Road.
Yeah, I know, Tommy Muck, I forgot, I didn't know what road you were talking.
Cider Mill Lane is above Kiwanis Beach Road, the gravel parking
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Which is directly across from my second entrance.
Yeah.
this is like putting the cart after the horse, this whole discussion, because at times you put into place rules that the gates to the access road should be closed by the last coach that leaves, verified by the police department. The gates are open all the time up there. They're not closed. Okay, there's, it's not supposed to be leased out, the parking lot leased out for use. However, we've had some big events which have benefited the town that have caused the effect that I've offered to open up the gates on my property because the road on both sides and the whole parking lot is filled, and you have I'm coming with you to a problem with safety. If you can't get a safety vehicle in there, and you're gonna add more hours of operation, more games, it's not safe. I wanna point out that big factor to all of you. I understand that recreation, they don't have enough room, that limited soccer fields. And they needed this gravel parking lot to offset when they have programs down below. Now everybody's found the upper parking lot, and it's hard, I don't know how you get a safety vehicle in there some days, I just cringe. And I don't want to impede any of the recreational programs, we all need that. But boy, I really think we gotta take a better look at, putting so much in one small area that can't handle the traffic. I mean, just look at the springtime, when the camp opens up or the kids and play programs up, everybody's upset because Elm Street is crazy. So things get diverted the other way. You can only put so much in an area before somebody's gonna get hurt. And that's the point I wanted to bring forward to you and to remind you that, you had 6 conditions, and they went along with a letter that was written by the chairman of the Board of Recreation, not by a recreation director. Rich Gazorian was the chairman of Board of Recreation and a long member, and he wrote those conditions. And they're not followed. It's obvious that if you have a big event, that the parking lot is leased out. If it's not, I don't want to mention what event, it's a good event that a local nonprofit does, but it's just giving you an example of that.
So, Lynn, this will be discussed later, but I do have a question about the lighting. Is the lighting a problem to you, or is it just and not just minimizing it, but is it more just the whole configuration of that?
No, the whole configuration, the lighting is not going to be a problem to me. I'm that far removed from it. The lighting is going to be a problem from the people on Kiwanis Beach Road. I would think the lighting would impact them. My biggest issue is with the safety factor of putting too many vehicles on a small road overflow. This is the overflow parking lot. It's turned into, this is the parking lot for, soccer, lacrosse, and there's more games here that get scheduled. I mean, there was some kind of game this past summer that it was crazy. I could barely get down my own street, and that parking lot was overflowed. And like I'll reiterate, I mean, there's supposed to be a turning radius and there's a paved area for safety vehicles. Well, if everybody's parking there, where the heck's the safety vehicle gonna go? To get down to the field that's already has to be impeded by a ramp that's absolutely necessary. The ramp it gives you access to the field as well as the handicap parking spaces. And I don't even want to touch upon that too far. I can change my hat to an accessibility standard to an advocate, and you get a gravel parking lot that really should be paved, and you have other issues on that soccer field. It doesn't have an accessible route to the bleachers. I can go on, but safety first, and that's all part of safety and making it so that we can all enjoy this. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. So, question, with this, the process with this, since the request is to install lighting, it does not have to do with parking. But that's something that could be considered because they're asking for this request for
I
modification.
think
I would say,
it triggers a site.
yeah, because I mean, even
I
though
thought, yeah.
it doesn't trigger one of the three things that would trigger necessarily a new site plan review.
Yeah.
This is seeking a modification of our existing
Yeah, okay,
approval.
that's what I
So
thought.
I
I just
think
wanted
it's,
to clarify.
I'm with Tom that it would be that process. And again, I'm not prejudging it, but I know I'm not surprised that the comments we're getting, those would have to be
Yeah.
addressed and appreciate.
And the student,
Exactly, kind of preview.
the student layers of this, one would be adding lights. What does that entail? Shows us showing what lights, where are they going, and how do they affect the neighborhood? That's pretty much what
Yeah.
you need to know.
Yeah, that part of it.
But the second thing is, all right, you've got other things that were supposed to have been done before. Like if you're going to be using the upper parking lot, gravel parking lot with lights and have a lot of people there, then it should be set up for handicap parking, just like the bottom is. If you're gonna put 16 cars there, or 15 cars, you need a handicap spot. We're gonna get in trouble if we don't
Pay for it.
if we don't at least acknowledge that there's parking there and it needs to be, according to both state and federal laws, how many spaces and how many handicaps.
Okay.
Everywhere you park people, not just the some down here.
Yep.
So
Okay.
we discussed that during the process.
Okay.
We-
So let me just check and see who else on this call, on this meeting wants to make comment. Any members of the public want to comment on this? I mean, it looks like from our discussion so far that this is not a quick one and done. That it is because it's requesting a change from previous conditions that we are gonna have to go into the process with a new site plan review and notification of abutters about impact and that type of thing. So does anybody have any questions, comments?
I think one comment, just knowing that, there's a concern about access along that street. I think if the applicant would be well served to get a letter from the fire safety officials in town, and they might say that, yeah, it's a problem, I can't take another car, or we've had no problems in the last 3 years or something in between. It'd be good to know that.
It's fine, but only daylight.
Yeah, sure.
But would that be part of the site plan review?
I think it would be something I would want to see.
Yeah,
so-
no, I.
We would ask
Yeah.
that, yeah, we would ask that question.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, we'd send it out anyway.
Yeah.
but They might want to.
Yeah.
Have a word with the fire safety officials to see what they're gonna get for an answer. It'd be tough if the police and fire chief both said,
Yeah.
can't take another car.
Or bus. 2 cars.
yeah. I mean,
Can't
this
take any
is,
bus.
Maria, this is, and I feel bad because it seems like it's not, but this is how stuff works. And so, that's why I really would be interested in hearing comments. I don't know if there's, there's 9+ people on this call. So I don't know if there's anybody from youth soccer. I don't know. Mike has his finger up, so I'm gonna throw something at you.
Just so I'm clear, and I appreciate obviously the concern about impact to neighborhood and lighting. That was my first question when this was presented to me as a potential on that field was, is anybody gonna be able to see these lights? Per the folks who want to have it, and per, I had DPW look at it, a town manager look at it. I think I sent it to fire as well. But it was a general consensus that it would be, the location of it on the field would be generally hidden. I don't know that to be true, but that seems to be
So
the.
the applicant says it would be fine?
But no, from the other departments that were also looking at this, because like I said, that was my first concern. Wouldn't want to have something go up and have an issue. What I would like for clarification from the board is the issue of lighting as it pertains to site plan. Because the site plan triggers are specific to parking and expansion of alteration of commercial and multifamily use, 2,000 square feet of greater area. I'll just run through them. The construction, right?
Didn't the
10-car parking lot, 10 or more parking spaces, expansion of 2,000 square feet, personal wireless facility, change of use, or a large-scale ground mounted.
Is it using it at night is a change in use, in my opinion.
Well, I think they're also looking for relief from our prior decision, which is
Yes.
in there, the applicant saying that our prior decision is too limiting for what they want to do. So I see this as so two things. I see this, that's our reason for doing the review.
Okay,
And two, we might want to change our site plan review criteria to have another trigger in there.
yeah,
It sounds like it's also already being overused from what was approved. At this
Yeah.
point.
And wouldn't those be flushed out if we had another hearing?
Right.
Catch up the date and then plan ahead.
I mean, the fact that somebody's parking in a turnaround for an emergency vehicle doesn't mean that the turnaround's not sufficient. It means the car needs to be towed.
Right.
I mean, so that could be an issue. I'm not saying it's not an
It's not
issue.
being enforced.
Right.
Well, the gate closing is not being enforced.
Yeah,
Right.
It just seems there are a lot of conditions.
What we have on that might be perfectly
Yeah.
fine if it's not. being-
so no, I bring that issue up specifically because there's obviously other parking lots in town that, if they're changing out lighting or putting additional lighting and things like that, does that then require full site plan review through this board?
Well, the problem is they're gonna be taking a field that's not filled and lighting it. That's gonna change to me the use of the field. The parking lot now has to accommodate the change in use. So
Yeah.
if you're gonna change the parking lot to match the new lighting,
Mhm.
the parking lot has to comply with what we're gonna get in trouble with if we don't comply with.
Right.
So, and that can all be flushed out, but I think we have to make them go through the process. If they had asked us in the beginning, we're gonna light it, we would have gone through all of these things. What
Sure.
kind of lights you're using, we would have flushed out, but since they didn't, I think they should do it now. I think they-
But the question, I think you're trying to get to the question of if a hairdresser decides
When
to,
do I send somebody?
it's not a sign, we have a sign by law. But if it's just I'm gonna put a pole light up that shines on the front of my business. Or, hey, I had my car broken into in the parking lot
Yeah.
behind my business, I wanna illuminate my parking lot.
Because
On my own nickel.
the Bank of America ATM recently switched out lights in their parking lot. So,
Would it make
And
sense?
then we didn't hear about
no, well, I might have,
Yeah, you did.
no, I did mention
it.
it.
No, but we didn't hear about it
Yeah,
officially.
but
Yeah.
so they didn't, I don't believe, I wasn't part of the permitting of any of these. This stuff is specifically laid out in agreement in 2015.
Mhm.
So it isn't just somebody coming up now and saying, hey, we want to do this, is we want to change the agreement so we get to do this. And so I don't know if that changes, I do remember that thing when we had to go through the pickleball,
But everything was done.
because they had said, this is what we're going to do here. And we couldn't just say, no, we're not going to do that here.
I think this this is an easy one, I think, because they are looking for relief, just like the developer was on the pickleball court. When you're asking for a change, we decide whether it's major or minor.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's
Right,
minor, we can do it in a public meeting.
Right.
If it's major, we traditionally have done it at a public hearing.
Right.
And that, at least two people, I think, have said this is major, so that's easy. The harder question is, what else do we need to look at other triggers around?
why is it major?
That was a major part of the discussion, whether this thing was gonna be illuminated. or-
My,
Okay.
my reason for it being major.
Yeah,
is-
you two were here at the time, I
Yeah,
wasn't, so.
The reason it's major for me is everything was
Small.
predicated, that the structure and all the parking was predicated upon the use of daytime fields. And it was overflow parking, there was no handicap, it was just for overflow and it wasn't for, there was no handicap spots put there. They were, in fact, they put 2 or 3 down below. To get the same number, the number that was total, we were allowed to take the ones there and put them down on the bottom. So they still had the right.
We got it, but we got in trouble for that too, Tommy, didn't we?
Yeah. But so the parking spaces, the handicaps were not put up, they were put down.
Okay.
So if you're gonna have a need for parking up with lights and whatever, then we should address, does that also need a handicapped review? But that would all be fleshed out in the.
So the bottom line is this is opening a can of worms.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it's not that, I mean, it's a change and it's, you know, it's a sensitive issue for the neighbors and it's a, you know, it's a sensitive issue for the sports
Yeah.
groups because, you know, everyone wants what they want. We're gonna try and balance the issues.
Yeah, and I'm a sports nut. I'd love to see these parking lots full. I think it's great for the kids.
No, I think every,
I agree with Tommy and Paul here. I do think we did end up having to put a handicap spot up above ultimately. We got in trouble for not having one up there initially. But that doesn't change that this should have a hearing.
vice chair.
No.
Oh, Margaret, you're vice chair. You're taking over. I got some more water.
Okay,
Margaret, can I answer you on something, please?
sure.
So the parking lot, as you know, is right across the street from my house and I'm an ADA advocate. And, the two, under Mass Architectural Access Board, the review was that the two handicap parking spaces would be from the access road. So you access the two handicap spaces from the access road that marry with the 30-car gravel parking lot. And there is no handicap parking in the gravel parking lot. There's no handicap parking there. So I wanted to let you know that. And there is a space paved for emergency vehicles so that there's a turning radius for emergency vehicles. That's the only space that's paved there.
Okay. So it sounds to me like we have kind of a consensus that we need to open this as a public hearing to actually formally discuss it and make sure that the neighbors are aware that we're discussing it. Does anyone have either a problem with that or a motion to make?
Well, we don't have an application before.
We don't have an application, that's right. So
An application for a minor site plan amendment.
Yeah.
It's a formal app. You're in a public meeting. Right now, it's not the public hearing, the distinction you were making earlier, but there's an application.
there is an application in place, okay.
Well,
So
my
this-
motion would be,
Okay, Tom?
my motion would be deny the request for a minor change and request and require that be major change, requiring the appropriate documentation on the lighting and the parking and the use change. Public hearing, the neighbors will be notified, and that will be my motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Ken,
I,
Paul,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
Margaret is an aye. So I think, Maria, this is not a no in any way, shape, or form. It's just that we want to make sure the neighbors can be heard appropriately for something like this.
So
Is that-
the
Yeah.
motion is to deny it as a minor modification, to treat it as an application for a major modification.
Require a
So-
site plan and make a public hearing.
Okay.
So Paul can, Paul, wrong person. But you can sort of talk to the folks in the office and figure out how to go forward, but we're not saying no here. We're just saying we need to have more, we need to let the neighborhood know what's going on.
All right,
And-
thank you all.
All right, thank you. And
Good night.
Kathy is back for town's right of first refusal to the Kelly Farm.
There's nothing new on that, so you can hold on and get it again.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna table Kelly's Farm again. Next thing up on the agenda, too many agendas in front of me. Do we have to close that conversation or is
No,
it?
it was not a
meeting?
public
It's
hearing.
meeting. Discussion of planning boards available, city of RPC hours and available position. Can we talk
Didn't I
about?
give an update on that last time?
Yeah, we did. Can we continue that? We're gonna figure out where, when, and do folks mind if we just push that one off too?
Oh, well,
I think we-
here-
We had it. It was, I mean, from Michael's standpoint, it was, we have like 11 hours left.
Yeah, something like
We're the gatekeeper, and
Okay,
if some group wants to ask for those hours.
Yeah.
They should ask for.
And then maybe get a few more hours you had mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, they just kind of provided the most updated hours, so that's.
yeah, I thought you wanted to figure out who they're going to. Okay.
No, I think, that, yeah, somebody, if somebody. That ask.
Yeah.
Anyone in particular, Paul?
No, it came up in a different meeting and,
Yep. Discussion on the preserve at Green Pond paving of sidewalks and general status of project.
What is it?
So the Stan Tech had called me, they're the peer review engineer on that, because they got a call from whoever's doing Dean Pond.
Locus.
Whoever their director is, to inspect the sidewalks that were installed. And so I just basically just need authorization pretty much from the board to just use those escrow funds that we currently have to have Stan Tech go out and review. That was basically all I needed to bring to the board. I was shocked to get the request because I assumed they were done with everything.
Last thing that goes in is a sidewalk.
yeah, but
Yeah, we got the money?
I think so, but if we, I'll get, Grace reached out to Kenny and confirmed the town accountant that the account balance is accurate. And Grace, what's the account balance?
1,949.
And if they spend more, we get just charge the developer more or less.
Yeah, I'll get a quote from Stan Tech as to what they expect to invoice us from that. And if I'm not gonna send them out, if we don't have enough, I'll make sure that we get the additional funds first.
yeah,
We authorize-
don't forget, we still have power to, like, we're still holding the bond and everything, right? On that one.
Oh, are we? I mean, I can.
Well, no, that's what I was gonna ask. I mean, because if we only, I don't know how much this is gonna cost, but if we have 1,900 left, we have nothing to not return to them if there's something else that needs there.
Well,
Sure.
we can hold it for a year after the completion date.
Yeah, but if we use it all, that's what I'm saying. So,
Or
I'll ask for, I just ask for another deposit. in the
Yeah.
Account. There's more things that need to happen because it's not an accepted road at this point, right?
right, but it might never be,
Yeah.
right? They could,
could stay public, could stay private,
right,
but for us with the money, we should have a bond then that even if we release, we're still gonna hold 10%.
Can you check to see what's remaining?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
because,
if we still have the bond, then I have no problem with it.
but the quick, I mean, I was thinking it was gonna be easier than this. I think Michael's got the easiest answer, is he's gonna find out what Stantec is likely gonna charge
Yeah,
and make sure the
Yeah.
applicant is up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I think we should let Michael go ahead and ask the applicant for the money if he determines that it's gonna be not enough money that's already there.
So send us the bill. You get the invoice, chairman can sign for the board.
she damn well feels like it. She will. Yes, she will.
And you can
Yeah.
sign it, pay for it.
Okay.
It's easiest work.
Other topics not easily anticipated by the chair? This is one thing, you're not the chair, so no.
I told you no.
No, just really quickly, I'm gonna be sending something out to members of the board. There was a request to look at the 5G, another change 5G technology. So I will be sending out, I got a link to this, not a link, I think I got the document to that Mike has looked at and, made some alterations to.
Question on our cell bylaw.
Mhm.
One of the things, it's been a long time since we put it in there, and the terminology and the words that we're using, cell towers really changed. 5G is gonna change that a lot. So I'm wondering, is it best for us to replace the bylaw and correct all of it, or to just add in something that we want on 5G?
I think isn't Lori's bylaw change, like a wholesale
Yeah,
change to the bylaw?
it's a whole, yeah, it's
Yeah, I
everything.
mean, that's what this is. That's why,
Not the best though, because we can update our regular.
I don't know until we look at it. And I need to send it out to people. She sent it to me 2 days ago. And I did it straight out, so I haven't been able to.
Does it propose handling everything through the siting, the whole siting process?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I think you read it more. I didn't even, look at it yet.
One of the suggestions last go around was that doing a bylaw that dealt with private property probably
yeah.
didn't.
Yeah,
So
do
it
anything
doesn't address
because-
that. Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I am not going to spend a lot of time reviewing a 20-page bylaw that doesn't.
Yeah.
So if, in my opinion, if there is a bylaw brought forward to the town.
Yeah.
And this board needs to hold a public hearing to
Yeah.
say yay or nay, great, but.
Yeah.
I'm not, and.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be my inclination.
Yeah.
Spend a whole lot of time. on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, that's why I want to get this to people beforehand. Just so they can look at it. Lori asked, to come to a meeting, the proponent asked to come to a meeting in November. And I figured our hands are gonna be full, in November with town meeting and everything else. So, probably in, December, but no present, it's just gonna be questions from the board if we have any questions.
So many things that go with 5G, like the one we just did is the use on land. That's kind of our
Yeah.
ballgame, but this is a little different. This could be
You've already
involving.
seen it, huh?
Huh?
You've already seen it, huh?
It's, we can have all of the rules and regulations we want. I'm not sure how much authority we're gonna have over.
Yeah, no, I just want to look at it. We have a resident that asked to come before us. I just don't want to, dedicate the amount of time that we did last time.
I do have a conflict with that night, though.
Oh, okay. Right.
I'm in favor of protecting ourselves from 5G if 5G is proven to be that. Has anybody proved that yet?
Nope.
Do we know?
But, if this is a whole, I don't even know if this bylaw focuses on 5G, but it's a bylaw change, it's an entire bylaw change. So I haven't looked at it yet. It addresses 5G, but addresses other uses
But
too.
yeah,
So-
phone service, I'm old, comes from a hill, right?
I haven't
There's a
looked
big
at it.
tower on a hill. Now you're gonna have phone service and the internet right from on the street. And it's gonna be, we need to know if that's gonna be okay for.
I'm getting the chip, just so I can go.
It's already.
Hello?
It may-
Is it gonna be a 5G?
How many terabytes?
No, I mean, again, I'm not, I just want to let people know that it's coming down the pike. I'm not qualified to speak on it tonight. And I didn't want to start speaking on it tonight because then, that wasn't on the agenda. So it would be inappropriate.
We wouldn't be the sponsor is what I'm hearing you say. We wouldn't be sponsoring a 5G change, but
Well, I don't, it's my understanding that it's a change in the bylaw, not just 5G. Just it's a whole change in the bylaw. I think it would be a determination of this board whether the request will probably be for us to sponsor it. We'll have to have a public hearing. We'll have to make a recommendation. Do we have to make a recommendation on citizens petitions?
Oh,
any zoning change.
Yeah, so we are gonna have to get involved. So-
only if it's a citizen's petition. Need 9.
Hmm?
Need 9 friends.
Yeah.
To get a citizen's petition.
Yeah.
Or a sponsoring board. So.
So, I don't, again, I don't know what the ask is. We'll find out when you come.
We need to be educated on.
Yeah, that's why I'm gonna send it out to people.
Yeah.
The people that don't already have it. Okay, so anyone want anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, good. Meeting's adjourned. I'm gonna take a vote on it.
All right. Good night.